This is Neds AFL Unpopular Opinions with Alastair Lynch, Tom Rockliff and Dylan Leach.
In our very first program of the year, I made mention that we who follow the game of Australian rules football need to remember that we have an awesome sport and we've got to show a bit more love for the game, even when we get caught up in the hustle and bustle, both on and off the field. Well, round 7, the Anzac round, gave us some of the best footy you'll see, I reckon. Be it the draw, a mark of the year, big crowds, big comebacks, big bags, contenders, and yes, there's certainly some pretenders out there. Oh, sure, there's heaps to get frustrated about. I mean, Jack Higgins getting 3 weeks from the MRO, WTF, and probably if you're barrack for North Melbourne, you don't have any love or appreciation for football and have probably given up altogether. Yet again, stupid opinions are rife in the game. The epic Anzac Day draw allowed the American sports fanboys to pop their ugly heads up and call for extra time during the home and away season. Perhaps they'd like to read their history books and find out the perfect solution the game came up with to reduce draws from its foundation days. Behinds and behind posts. That's why they were created. Given that there's been less than 200 draws in 127 seasons of the VFL/AFL, the split points is a handy thing and it's hardly worth worrying about. And I think you should be banished from society like my friends who advocated for captain's calls and best of 3 grand finals. Sorry, you're also banished from society. But let's be positive again. Footy is great. Round 8 brings us a fair dinkum rivalry round. As Bruce McAvaney would say, the fixturing is delicious from start to finish, and we can't wait to sink our teeth into it. Hello and welcome to another edition of Ned's AFL Unpopular Opinions. My name is Dylan Leach, and I'm delighted to be here for another week, as is leading goal kicker for Fitzroy in 1993, Alastair Lynch.
Oh, g'day, Dill.
Yeah?
You finished that tirade?
Yeah, it's an editorial at the top of the hour.
Well, you got your referrals knocked on the head, the goal umpire, goal line referrals.
Well, that's the impact of this program.
Yeah, massive.
That's it. They
listen
at AFL House.
Looking forward to what's next.
If you can get about AFL 360, this is the agenda-setting show. This one here. Now, there's a passage in the club song, Alastair, and it says, "The heroes are those who've earned the right to wear the silver teal, black and white." This man claims to have been one of them. Now, Port Adelaide was established in 1870, and despite joining the club 148 years after the club's establishment, with many legends such as Foss Williams, in fact, the whole Williams family, John Cahill, Russell Ebert, Greg Phillips, Warren Tridway, Gavin Wanganeen, and not playing in any of their 38 Sandful flags or their 2004 AFL flag, with the club creed stating we exist to win premierships. No, he hadn't done that, but he's a legend of Alberton and built the foundations of the place. 54 of the greatest games the Port Adelaide Football Club has ever seen. The man who could just walk into the rooms and demand respect. I'm talking about Port Adelaide legend, Tom Rockliff. I think he's got some association with Brisbane as well.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there, Dill. So you're obviously referring to roaming Brian after the game, and he came for a chat. And you've just got to give a bit back, don't you, Lynchy? So,
what are you doing here?
You advanced him. You jumped on the front foot.
That's right. You just batted away, and then he leaves you alone. So look, it was clearly tongue in cheek.
I don't think it was.
Well, there's only one guy who got invited to host the box for the golfers.
That's correct.
A Port Adelaide legend. There was one person they rang.
Yeah, flown down, not even live in the state. Can you please come and do this and showcase Port Adelaide and tell them what it's about? So I was rubbing shoulders with some of the best golfers in the world.
They got you.
They got me, flew me down, and then, roaming Brian. And I tell you what, I would have heard it 400 times at LIV Golf. Every punter coming past, there he is, the foundation.
Yeah.
It was brilliant.
Because I used to call John Butcher the future.
The future, yeah.
And you're
Johnny
the foundation.
Butcher. Yeah, on the foundation, he was the future. So a couple of myths there, I think. But me and Johnny Butcher, but...
well, there was no myth. Who was in the box with you? So that you had 2 fairly handy golfers in the box.
So we had Hendrik Stenson in there. Yeah. I think we are going to get to this later, but he was in there, and Bryson DeChambeau as well. So
Did you catch up with Greg Norman?
No, I was promised a lot of names, but I'll tell you about that later.
Yeah, this week on the show, we're going to have...
We'll tease it.
Little teaser. Rocky's going to do a full review of LIV Golf.
Nice.
So given the golf content has really expanded on this show,
it has.
Rocky's efforts at the Hacker Majors got him a gig at LIV Golf. Have they signed you up yet?
I actually pulled the video out and showed him, and he said, "Oh, you could come and play with us."
Oh yeah.
Did you show him Dill's video? Oh my goodness! Actually, that'd be hilarious. It's a different game.
I think I was on. Actually, speaking of Shonky Golf, Matthew Richardson was my good friend Richo was also struggling on the golf course.
Was he?
So I think he could relate. We can relate with Richo.
There is no way. I haven't seen Richo's swing. There's no way he's got anything like yours, though.
No, it would be better than yours.
I don't know.
Seriously.
I don't know. Let's move along.
Right.
What's your... what do we do? Neds golf. No, football. Let's talk football. What's your outlandish statement / unpopular opinion from the weekend going on in the world of football?
Unpopular opinion is you don't need to rest a kid after 6 games. I would have loved to see him live yesterday, Harley Reid, and I would have loved him to be there. The way West Coast started, had he been there, and they may have put a bit more pressure on and got a bit further out in front, and with 4.5 minutes to go, they were only down by 3 goals. So I think they may look back and go, we could have potentially won that one as well. So.
Well, you, like me, we have a pre-game to fill and we plan it during the week, and it was full of Harley Reid. We were flat as a shit carters when they pulled him out. Oh, dear.
Just rewrite the whole pre-game.
Did everyone who bought a ticket from the game get a Harley Reid refund? Because I would have thought earlier in the week, if I'm going to West Coast, Gold Coast, I'm paying to see the kid.
Well, I think we touched on it last week. We were actually genuinely looking forward to seeing him. And Brownie took half a dozen teenage girls to the game, and they're sitting down ready for Harley Reid, and he had to break the news that he's not playing.
Sorry, girls.
So disappointing. But, yes, he's a star. So... You reckon shouldn't have dropped him? Or shouldn't have left him at home?
I don't think so, because they were gettable yesterday at times,
the
Gold Coast Suns. And as we said, 4.5 minutes ago, they were only 18 points down. And we know Gold Coast went on and kicked 3 in the last 3 minutes, so the scoreboard looks like 37 points. If he's out there, I know it's big to say that he's a 7-game player and the result's going to change. I'm not saying that, but if he's out there and having an impact, because Gold Coast midfield dominated.
Yeah.
Why are you resting 7-game players?
Well, I think it's not just I don't think it's just a physical thing with him. I mean, he's been put in the spotlight that much. I think it's just like, just cool your jets and almost like everyone just have a week off this kid. So I think it's a mental and physical fatigue mitigator, I think. So
fair enough.
I get it, and I reckon what you would do almost as you bring those young kids in and you'd explain it to the families, explain it to the manager, say you're going to spend some time out of the team. We're looking at you being your best player in 3 years' time. And that'd be the plan they would have put in place, and they'd just play it by ear a little bit, but yeah, I get it.
And there's probably
don't worry about 3 years time.
I know. Yeah.
I don't think they would have been doing that if he'd been playing at North Melbourne at the moment. Somehow he would be
he'd be their leading goal kicker and captain.
Yeah. Exactly. Lynchy, what do you take out of the weekend gone by? That's outlandish or unpopular.
Well, it's probably revisiting something I think we spoke about either last year or the year before, but the push in the back free kick.
Ah, yes.
Rolls into many other things, I think. The push in the back free kick, I don't think it's that hard to work out. You're either, with your hands, you're either creating the space or protecting the space. I reckon if you put that lens over, it'll be pretty easy to make the decision. We're seeing so many big shoves in the back and people going forward, and some players are throwing themselves forward, and you're not going to get a free kick with that. But I just think if the umpires have got to come back to, is someone creating space with a push in the back, or is it protecting the space? Because it is vastly different. And on the back of that, I would like, and there's been talk about the umpiring lately. I think the umpires are doing a fantastic job and a really difficult job. But I think what we need to do is, I like the idea of 4 umpires to reduce their Ks and reduce their the need for to be an elite athlete. So I think even more so, I think the coach would come into the umpires moving forward and should be saying, you just stand in an area. We don't want you running. And I think in last year's chat I said, I can't wait to see the first 100-kilo umpire. So someone that
big bloke up.
We want the best decision makers.
Yeah.
But what we're getting the best decision makers that can bounce the ball well and run a ridiculous 16K time trial. So I think we need to get back to more. Let's get the best decision makers. Don't make them run as far. So stand in sort of areas.
Zoned umpires.
Well, yeah, and just essentially. Yeah. So just jog. And you've got enough umpires, you've got enough coverage on the ground to not be too far away from it at any stage. So I think jog. So let's get heavier umpires, make better decision makers. The push in the back, let's get that right moving forward. And we'll go in one more. Yep. This has been discussed for 30 years, I reckon. We need some professional umpires.
Full-time umpire.
Yeah, so let's get a dozen professional umpires.
Yeah.
And it's not just about that's going to make them better umpires. It's going to create a bit of a pathway, and those umpires can do their training, do their reviews and all that sort of stuff, but they're going out to grow the game and grow that pathway for umpires.
I think we should call them full-time umpires because the umpires at the moment are professional at what they do.
They're very professional,
Yes,
okay.
proper language.
But it's probably not their main
Full-time,
income stream.
but yes,
Yeah,
and,
full-time.
They're full-time in the NRL.
Well, are they?
There's full-time referees
So
in
I
the
think
NRL.
they should go full-time. They say,
Yeah.
well, they haven't got enough to do, but they have.
There's
They can get around clubs.
Yep.
They do it pretty well around the AFL clubs. They can get around the regional clubs. They can get out and the development program. Let's create a pathway. And I know it's not for everyone. And maybe it's not going to make them better umpires straight away, but we're going to create a greater pool of umpires that are coming through.
You would think it would build better relationships between umpire and club kind of thing if there's a go-to person that's...
Well, and I think these days, when
clubs.
Rocky was playing, the umpires come into training, whether during the year or pre-season, is fantastic. We didn't really do that 100 years ago. The only
You had
time
a beer with them in the rooms.
Well, absolutely you did. You went to the past players bar and you had a few pots with them afterwards to work it out. But the relationships are pretty good, but I'd love to see it just stepped up a little bit.
Well, I think during summer, I reckon there's 2 there nearly every session.
Yeah.
So they would nearly be borderline full-time, I think.
They would be, and they're on...
Some of them.
I mean, some of the salaries umpires would earn, you probably could live off that full time, to be perfectly honest. But yes, you are right. They should, particularly with the money in football and some of the jobs that are in football. Like you'd think the
that's right. And then you talk about transition programs for AFL players to either out of football or go through into different work streams. You could do that for umpires as well. So they're full-time professional umpires. They're developing the umpires pool, and they can create pathways to go into administration if they wanted to go down a different track.
I like it. Okay, my outlandish statement, and it's more a compliment than anything, but can Geelong be shit? Can Geelong please be shit? I mean, you've had it. No, they're meant to be shit for a few years. Don't have this 1 year gap year of not playing finals. They're the only team that's undefeated. They've been consistently good, not since 2007. They've been consistently good since Lynchy was playing. 2004.
Yes,
they beat you in a you just beat them in a prelim.
Yeah.
But
no, they're an exceptional club.
This is I can't help but admire it. And I mean, like, initially the outlandish is, can you guys just be shit? Because it's your turn to be shit. Like, we're all sick of you always being up there. There are Geelong supporters who have never known beyond 12th of the ladder. They don't know what that looks like. You do.
Well,
I do.
I think
you do from your Fitzroy days and even Brisbane days.
So what did Selwood played 16 years, didn't he?
Yeah, he's played more finals than St Kilda ever has.
There was one game in his whole career where he couldn't possibly play finals.
Oh.
Yeah,
really. Like the opportunity to play.
That's extraordinary. And they won't be shit because there's too many high-quality people around the club.
Absolutely.
And it's sort of snowballing now because of free agency and that sort of stuff, which is not about equalisation at all.
No, it's not.
It's about once you've got a great culture and environment, you keep just bringing people in and you're developing good quality kids.
And the ones that they've brought through are now running the club as well, and they've learned off the best.
And
so
also,
like Andrew Mackey's their footy manager now. He's running the show, but he's learned off the
And also, like, the zone system is no longer a thing, but it is a thing at Geelong. Like, if you're from that region, there's every chance you're going to end up playing for the Blue and White Hoops. A Cats mate of mine actually put this tweet on Saturday, summed it up really perfectly. And I'm not being facetious or anything. I thought it was a really good way of analysing what kind of club Geelong is. Rudy Edsall, good mate of mine, actually a colleague of yours at Triple M, he wrote, Cats have become an ultra-professional outfit that they just understand what they need to do to win. Everyone plays their role in a way that makes them so much greater than the sum of all their parts. Relentless and ruthless on every mistake, they remind me of the Australian cricket team. They are on par with the Australian cricket team in terms of just their never-ending pursuit of excellence.
And always looking to improve. As we said, we talked about last week how they're getting spare players in the forward 50. They did it again on the weekend. And that's just this unbelievable running ability that some of these guys have got, and they go.
And this is purely admiration. This is not being facetious at all. I've got to, this is
just be shit.
Just be shit.
For a couple of years.
I'm saying 3 or 4 years without the finals. Have a drought.
Good luck.
Have a drought. Not 1 year. They just, you know what they called last year? A gap year. Long service leave. That's what they called that.
Freshen up.
We
It was a
accept the
freshen up.
Sydney Swans are going to be always up there. I've always said the Sydney Swans are like footy's marginal electorate in politics. Like, they're always going to get pork barreled. They're always going to be looked after. You got to have the Sydney Swans up and about. But Geelong, like, 27. They've had 27 redevelopments of their grandstand. They're
Marginal seat,
unbelievable.
yes.
Yeah, marginal. No one's benefited more from a marginal seat than Geelong has. But yeah, like, you know, I'm being privileged. I was privileged as a Tigers man to have the era we had. Now we're shit, and we accept we're going to be shit for a little while. Hawthorn had a glorious era of being good. Now they're shit. Their fans accept that they're going to be shit for a while. But Geelong, oh no. Oh no, let's just keep being good. Let's keep being up there. Let's keep being amazing.
Well, you know,
let's keep being a premiership contender. Enough already. Share it around.
You know who might be the same for the next 10 years or longer? GWS.
Oh, they're amazing.
They're incredible what they've got coming through as well. They've probably got equal to Geelong, if not better, elite talent with some of those players running around there. But these kids that are coming through, just absolutely amazing. It was Darcy Jones.
Yeah.
Darcy Jones
hero.
and Jake Rogers from the Gold Coast were my favourite players for the weekend. You got 175 centimetre light kids that just have incredible speed and just lit up the game.
Yeah.
I mean, GWS did it all night. It wasn't just Darcy, but their speed was incredible.
I had the pleasure of watching them live for the first time this year in Canberra, and they are one of the most exciting teams I've seen.
Yeah.
They are such a joy to watch live.
Yeah. And they've gone in with
television doesn't do justice how fun they are to watch live.
Their best defender was out, their best forward was out, and one of their best midfielders was out.
It was fast
They brought in a kid with a lid on his
with a club,
head
with a
and
cut.
just smoked him.
It was just fast, ferocious, fun football, relentless. And look, you know, we joke about how many supporters GWS might have, but my God, if you're a GWS supporter, boy, are you getting bang for your buck as a supporter. If we're talking about GWS, given the two people we have, I know he's a Port Adelaide legend, but
foundation.
I know you built the foundations of Port
place,
Adelaide.
yep.
Are you giving a talk to the showdown this week about?
They might ask me to fly back down.
Yeah, I think so.
And do it for me.
Yeah.
I built this joint.
That's
right.
Yeah. Are you actually? I believe you're actually talking to the Williams family about the foundation of Port Adelaide this week. But anyway, I know you have some association with the Brisbane Lions. I know Lynchy is actually a legend of the Brisbane Lions, but you have some association with them. What's going on? What's going on at Brisbane? I know this is a new segment we do every week on the show here, folks, called "What's the Deal with Brisbane?" and we can be more ruthless now because we're no longer a major sponsor. But
I think they're shot. They look shot. They look tired.
Yeah.
Conversations with them, they said that they've been up for 5 years and one of the best teams, and maybe it's just caught up with them. But I think they're probably searching for answers. I don't think they'd have their finger on it. They'd be disappointed with where they sit. They've had a couple of injuries to some personnel, but not major.
But it's the first injuries they've really had over the last handful of years. But that's not an excuse. There's a reason with Coleman out in particular, Zach Bailey out of the side. Yeah, McInerney's a huge out on the weekend for them.
Play next week as
well.
Do
they? Will Ashcroft?
Like Jared Witts, in my opinion, was best on ground yesterday.
With one quarter. That third quarter, he put on an absolute clinic.
And if he can do that to Brisbane, they'll probably win that game. Yeah. So what's wrong at Brisbane? I'm not sure. I think they've got 6 winnable games the next 6. So it'll cover over some cracks. But seeing teams go on runs and just have really good form, but
it just doesn't look like the energy levels are down. So we've seen patches. The complete game they had was against Melbourne 3 weeks ago. Yep. They had patches against Collingwood, patches against Carlton in particular. There was a good start against Freo, but some real issues. So I'm not subscribing to the fact that it's 5 years and done.
No.
I think I could see if they lost one of the next 2 games, I reckon they could fall off for the rest of the year and miss the 8. They could go that bad. But I would think next year they'd bounce back extremely well. Duday comes back in. Will Ashcroft comes in. Coleman comes back in.
Another Ashcroft
comes in.
Coming in.
So, they are an oldish team, but I think there's depth on the list.
Best case scenario for Brisbane this year is probably, so let's rule out top 4 now. But if best case scenario is Brisbane will want to aim for 5 or 6. Well, maybe they don't want a game at the Gabba, but given their record there at the moment, they want to finish 5th or 6th, get a home final, and know that if they're going to go anything
Western
deep.
Bulldogs of 16.
Yeah. Or even like, I know they didn't go all the way, but look to what happened at Carlton towards the end of last year. Well, maybe they need an honesty session.
The other
one
thing
of the boys.
that me and Lynchy just spoke about, which the more I think about it now, it makes even more sense, is when Chris Fagan's on the boundary line and he has the headphones on the whole time.
So you were talking about that prior to the show,
Yeah,
yes?
prior to the show. And it doesn't strike what coaches normally do down at ground level. If you're down at ground level, you'd often see them without them on, talking to the players the whole time, where Fags doesn't really do that. So I don't know whether he's best suited down on the boundary or up the top. So that might be something for him to look at to change, or change it, or take the headphones off and.
Yeah, because the ground, as you're saying, the ground level coaches look like it's big on interaction, giving feedback straight away, because you haven't got the best view. We know, looking at when you're down at that level, you can't see a lot.
It's Gabba as well, because it's so drainage.
So maybe that is an option. But they need almost a circuit breaker, something just to get them going again, because there's a number of players a long way off their best.
That might be at the selection table as well. It might be a circuit breaker for a few players. Just give them a tap on the shoulder, say, hey, you're going back to the VFL this week. For a couple of weeks, and then see if you get a spark that way.
The scrutiny will definitely be on the Lions. We normally record this on a Tuesday, but this is a Monday record this week, so no doubt that the shows tonight, as we record this, will have plenty of hot takes on the Lions. I noticed Lee Matthews, his opinions usually matter on things like the Brisbane Lions, but he's just labelled them second rate and slow, says it just hasn't worked out. Second rate and slow is pretty harsh.
Give him a good clip
from Lee
from the board.
Yeah, well, obviously, then the sub-editor of the Herald Sun's had a lot of fun with the headline, I'd be lying.
Oh, nice.
If everything's okay. Bit of fun.
No.
But yeah, that's pretty harsh from Lethal. But fair. I think that's a fair assumption of where Brisbane's at.
He can make the most complicated sound simple, Lee, and he does that very well. But he's spot on.
Yeah, they looked very slow on Thursday night. Also, they did come off a 5-day break.
Yes, it was a short week.
And heavy. It was wet.
Yeah. It was a heavy night.
Well, it wasn't wet. In our multi, they were GWS more sure things because they were outsiders.
Actually, it's interesting. It's actually interesting you bring up the short break and the Thursday night game, because we've seen that a couple of weeks in a row now, where St Kilda came off a 5-day break and got absolutely spanked.
They had back-to-back short ones.
Yeah, they had back-to-back short ones. Brisbane have had some short breaks. And are we seeing excuses and whatnot, but are we seeing the consequences of these quick turnarounds and demand for more primetime games and everything like that?
I think they would have had heavy legs. Like you play wet weather footy, which the week
at Geelong, they were on a heavy track at Geelong.
It rained
against Geelong, I should say,
from start to finish, and that's hard enough to get up after 7 days. You know what it's like, Lynch. The first couple of days you can barely move, and then by the time you get running, so you can give them an out there a little bit to look a bit slow compared to the Giants, who were ready to go, but they've looked a bit off all year. It's not just that one.
No. So what are the two situations you see for Brisbane? Would they be... So obviously I said best case scenario is to just make the 8 with, 12, 13 wins is probably their best case. Well, they need to get on a run and get back
to what we saw against Melbourne.
Do we see something like a Geelong last year where it's just injuries and tiredness and maybe they do bounce back up?
It could get to a stage where it just gets too much and they're mentally and physically worn out, and then they might fall away. But I don't think they would. I think they'd bounce back pretty hard next year.
Yeah,
there's just too much talent there.
There's too much. You are right.
There's too much talent. It's not like they're a cooked list that are just out on their feet and they're going to get a heap of retirements. The only player that, and he's actually been playing pretty well, but Dane Zorko is the only one sort of that. He's in that space, and he's probably out of the contract at the end of the year. But you think on current form, he's playing on.
Yeah.
He gives them a bit of zip. So there's no one else who's really going to drop off.
They could go on a run, though. They've got
what's their upcoming lineup?
Suns, then Adelaide, Richmond, Hawthorn, Western Bulldogs, St Kilda, Port Adelaide, Melbourne, Crows, West Coast.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, that's... And then Sydney, they're still, I'd say... 80% of them, they could nearly give them a tick.
What a good win! It's an understatement to say a good win in the Q Clash. A win.
Yeah,
a good win. A win at home as well, which is a weird one.
They'll just bank some points.
Yeah. Just chalk up the W's.
Get it back to 50-50 win-loss ratio.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden...
Someone had a chat here. 3 months ago and said after 7 rounds, West Coast and Brisbane are going to both be on the same amount of wins, would have laughed at him.
Why didn't you bet on that?
That's right.
Why didn't you put that in your multi?
Because you've been whacked in the asylum, I would have thought.
Yeah.
Chuck that up.
See, sometimes these stupid bets do pay off, Rocky.
No, that's right.
One of your old teammates, Elliot Yeo.
Yeah.
He's been good. And it was good to see him live for the first time for a while. But he's back to his powerful best. It's probably been 3 years since he's been able to have that strength to push off and burst out into space.
The first centre square bounce yesterday just summed up. He was back to his absolute best. His body position, his power out of the contest, and then delivery inside 50. It was good to see him back.
And as we know, in redeveloping teams, you need your experienced players to be fit and well to carry the kids a bit.
Yeah.
And no, he was exceptional. It's good to see.
Let's move on. Let's get some facts and figures. Unfortunately, they don't have the hindsight bets that we wish we had about West Coast and Brisbane's win-loss ratio, but they might be able to help us in round 8. He's licking his wounds. It's a poor old Hawk in Ryan and Rocky, and of course, the Snapshot.
All the betting trends you need to know from the world of footy. This is the Snapshot.
Another week, another edition of the Snapshot. Tommy, I hope you've still got time for the little people, mate. I know you've been rubbing shop down in Adelaide, but I hope you've seen plenty of footy too. Did you manage to fit that into your schedule, mate?
I certainly did. I was at Friday night. I ended up flying back Saturday night, got to the Gold Coast and West Coast yesterday, seen plenty of footy. Not a bad round in the end, but a couple of teams struggling, falling away. But I did miss probably the game of the round, Geelong versus Carlton.
Was the game of the round, and we've got some big games coming up this weekend as well, some big derby games that we will get into shortly. The team you just mentioned there, though, West Coast, pretty keen to dive in on some Jake Waterman chat. He's starting to firm up now in the Coleman medal chase. 21 goals to his name, if you don't mind. Only kicked the 18 last year. Has kicked some pretty big bags over the last few weeks. 6 against the Tigers, 4 against the Suns last week. It just looks like he's the emerging forward in that West Coast forward line since Josh Kennedy has retired. $13 now for the Coleman. Was closer to triple figures just over a month ago. Look, tell me, mate, do you think this is just a purple patch, or is Waterman a genuine chance for the Coleman?
I think he's a genuine chance. The way he plays and the way West Coast play, he's their main man inside 50, and he's gonna get the ball kicked to him a lot, and he's good in the contest. He's strong. Darling, he looked a little bit off yesterday. He had a good opponent on him, but he just looked a little bit off. So I think he is, and they were pretty impressive for large chunks of the game yesterday as well, West Coast Eagles. So I think realistically he is a chance to win it, and I wouldn't mind a bit of those triple figures that you just tossed around, having a bit of money on that back a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it's still not too late to get on. As I said, $13. He's only 25 years old, this young man. Still got a bit of beef to put on. So I think you're right. He's a genuine chance in the Coleman market, especially since he's going to get the bulk of the goals. Looking ahead, though, we've got the first showdown of the year coming up this week. You played in plenty of these games against the Crows. Built the foundations of the club, let's not forget. Port Adelaide. Got a pretty good glimpse of Port Adelaide last week. I feel like you did in that 10-point win over St Kilda. And both of these clubs are at complete opposite ends of the ladder right now. Scoring can still be a bit hit and miss for the Power, it seems, and they've got a few potentially big outs this weekend, Rosie, Alir, and Pal Pepper. Do you see Port Adelaide applying that same kind of pressure that they did last week to the Saints against the Crows?
Yeah, I think they will. I think the Crows nearly have to be in favourites going into it. You throw the ladder and form out when you go into a showdown. I've seen it so often where the team lower on the ladder gets up and wins this game. They're always cracking contests. But Port Adelaide's outs for me are going to be the thing that, in my opinion, makes the Crows favourites going into the game. Rosie's a big out. He'll be 50-50, I think. I don't think it's as bad as a normal hamstring, but the 6-day turnaround makes it really, really tough for him. I think to get up, Alir, we know won't play. He was out with concussion, and the big injury of Sam Powell-Pepper with ACL is disappointing for him. It's been a tough year for him after being elevated in the leadership group. Adelaide Crows, they went down there. They just had to win that game of footy, didn't they? If they lost that to North Melbourne, then the drums would have been beating, and it would be a horrible place to be. But they did what they had to down at Blundstone Arena, got hold of them, and really smacked North Melbourne, which I think everyone's doing. I think everyone would be looking forward to playing North Melbourne at present. So they may have captured a bit of form. They've been disappointing so far to start the season. So Thursday night, I think, shapes as probably... It's hard to say match of the round because you look down and there's just cracking games everywhere. The next night you got Carlton and Collingwood and then Giants second v third. That's going to be a ripper. Just great games all weekend, but really looking forward to the showdown to kick things off.
So just to get this on record, mate, you're tipping the Crows? I
think they have to be favourites. I'm not tipping them, but I think they should be favourites.
Right, okay. As a man that's built the foundations of Port Adelaide, that's a headline. You know, you've already created enough headlines this week.
I know. I can't tip against Port Adelaide. I've literally built the joint, so it would be a little bit wrong of me to tip against them.
Well, let's see if you'll tip against one of your other clubs, and that is Brisbane, going into what is arguably one of the biggest Q clashes of all time, late on Sunday night against the Suns. Big game for the Suns. If they win this, they're probably looking at a spot in the 8. The Lions looked very disjointed last week, trying to move the ball forward against GWS. Doesn't look like they have a lot of answers coming. Chris Fagan is sort of lost for words. They're going to get a bit of a boost in the ruck again with Oscar McInerney probably coming back in. The Suns did win the last Q clash against Brisbane late last year, snapped that long hoodoo against them, and similar story emerged that time. Brisbane just couldn't kick straight, and that's really been the story of their season so far. Are you surprised to find Brisbane as short as $1.48?
Yes and no. Like, you look at the Gold Coast yesterday, and West Coast, 4 minutes to go in that game, only 18 points down. So Gold Coast didn't play that well. They kicked 3 goals in 3 minutes and the scoreboard blows out. But their midfield of the Suns is so strong. Their forward line operates well, but their ball movement's not where it needs to be. They just make silly errors and cough up easy goals. And if you do that to Brisbane at the Gabba, they can pile them on quickly. Like, as bad as they've been this year, we've still seen them pile goals on. They did it against Carlton round 1. They've done it a couple of times where they just put their foot down. And Gold Coast, if that happens to them, they could get blown away. So I think Brisbane will get it done, and Oscar McInerney is a massive, massive in for the Brisbane Lions if he does get up and play, because Jared Witts was clearly best on ground yesterday, and what he does for the Gold Coast Suns, he's an exceptional player. He looks tired in the warm-up and just gets it done week in, week out. So McInerney needs to play for the Lions and play well and get the footy going. But, yeah, I'd be leaning towards Brisbane, but in saying that, I wouldn't be surprised if the Suns won.
Well, with that in mind, you're not going to like what I've tipped in the multi this week.
No, you haven't.
Ryan and Rocky are cooking up another multi. Surely it gets up this week.
Before we get to that, we'll recap what happened last week because it was a bit of a disaster. I took the Crows to cover against North Melbourne. That was free money, basically. Then I took the under between the Dockers and the Dogs, which fell over by half a point. So chalk that up to a bad beat. You had GWS head-to-head against Brisbane. Great value going into that one. And then what happened from there?
Well, that was the free money for me on the weekend, was the Giants getting the Lions off a 5-day break after wet weather. And then I think I took Carlton. We spoke about Carlton and Geelong, didn't we? And I said that Carlton head-to-head I thought was good value as well. And, I was close. I thought they were a bit stiff to lose that. Geelong were in front for a long period of time, but Carlton had their opportunity. And, again, bad goal kicking cost another team a potential victory.
I thought Carlton were the better team on the day, just looking back at the stat sheet, so very unlucky to lose that one. This week, though, you've gone back to the well with a couple of player picks. I'll let you discuss those ones.
Yeah, certainly have. We're recording a little bit later than what we did last week, so there is a couple of player markets up. I'm going to go back to some old faithfuls. I think Brody Myercheck to kick 2+. He always bobs up for goals, so big Friday night at the MCG against Carlton. I think we can lock him in for 2+, and then Harry Sheasel 30+. I was tempted to do 35+, but we need to just get another win on the board, so I'll just leave it at 30+.
I like it. Yeah, I can't argue with the way you're going on these player picks at the moment. I know you've already detested this one, but I've gone North Melbourne to cover against St Kilda. 36.5 point line. I just don't think the Saints are capable of blowing a team away right now, and I think that line is just a little bit too long for mine. And then again, I've gone the Gold Coast Suns plus 13.5 against Brisbane. Really good team at getting the ball inside 50. So if that is the case on Sunday, I think the Lions are going to have a pretty big fight on there. To recap, though, we've got Brody Myercheck 2+ goals against Carlton. And then from the same game, I've taken North to cover against St Kilda. You've taken Sheasel 30-plus disposals. And then to bring us home, last game, makes me nervous, the Gold Coast Suns, plus 13.5 against the Lions in the Q Clash. Bag it all up, we're getting $8.34.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Hopefully we're live on Sunday night at 7:10. Public holiday on Monday. We might be popping the champagne bottles, Ryan, on Sunday night if we can get this one over the line.
If not, I can expect another nasty text from your good self. You can find that multi in the special section on the Neds app under AFL. Tommy, good betting chat as always, mate. Go well this weekend.
Good on you, Ryan.
It's time to take a walk down memory lane with the man who was everyone's one-time Supercoach captain. This is Rocky's Reminiscing.
All right, time for what is now our regular travel segment, travel and lifestyle segment, I like to call here on Neds AFL Unpopular Opinions, or Junket of the Week, maybe.
Yeah,
we
that's
call
more like it. You two junket golf.
Yep.
Now Rocky's got junket everywhere.
It's Junket of the Week.
Gather round, junket.
Yeah, Junket.
Nah, it's work.
He's away every week.
Yeah.
Going junket.
I'm working.
Going somewhere tonight.
Adelaide.
Another junket.
I'm off.
Port Augusta.
I was working too.
Yeah, I suppose
All
actually
right.
a foundation member of the club. Held them
Now,
together.
Tom,
Yes,
as
yes.
the bloke who did build the foundations of Port
Yes.
Adelaide and the city of Adelaide, really.
Yes.
LIV Golf was on this weekend, and well, would you care to give the Neds AFL Unpopular Opinions family an insight into this event, what it's all about, what to look forward to, and why we should go?
And starting with, were you surprised that Port Adelaide actually called you to say,
Yeah,
come,
let's
we're going
go
to
back- let's go
fly
back
you
to-
down to host the box?
yeah.
fellas?
So, all right, we'll talk about my
let's-
trip. It was literally 24 hours I was in Adelaide.
Right.
It made it look like I was there, a bit longer. But, so Friday morning, they knew I was coming down. Still speak to Chris Davies a fair bit, the footy boss at Port Adelaide. And he sent me a message and said the media guy, Daniel Norton, will be in contact. Want you to host a box tonight with all the golfers. Thinking, if I have to, like,
You got to do it. You got to do it.
anyway. So landing about 6:30.
No folding, changed hands?
No cabbage. But so Norts calls me. He goes, "Do you want to host a box? You got Greg Norman, Dustin Johnson, John Rahm, like just reeling off all these players."
Right.
He goes, "Make sure you're there early because they'll probably leave at half time because they're all sort of a bit jet lagged and played golf that day." So I'm land at 6:30. It's impossible to get an Uber or a taxi because the footy's on. LIV Golf round one's just finished. Couldn't. So I'm running down the road, suit just sweating like an absolute pig by the time I got there.
Well, you are the pig.
And rolled in just as like the Anzac Day ceremonies were happening. Go into the box, no one in there. Just me and Darcy Byrne-Jones' beautiful partner, Alice, was in there. She works with SA government. It was me and her for the first almost quarter.
Fat as a shit does. You put the autograph book away?
I had a glove to get signed for another mate that I play golf with. And, so in there. But anyway, after about a quarter and a bit, a couple of... Hendrik Stenson was in there who actually won a person the car.
Yep.
He had to hit a golf ball into the centre circle, and then Bryson DeChambeau as well. So I sat next to him for a half and just said, I used to play footy if you got any questions. He's a ripping fella. There was that much food, so all catered. Obviously, been to boxes before.
Yeah. What was on the menu?
My first ever box. I'm normally the punter. Normally with the punters out in the GA, but it was just incredible. Mountains of food.
What we're talking here? Some party pies?
Nah, like all classy stuff.
Give us the menu.
Well, I couldn't even tell you. There was like anything you could think of. Yeah,
he didn't have time to eat. He was too busy diggerising the golfers.
So Bryson walked in and he goes, "Nah, that's not for me." He went down, got a pepperoni pizza and a box of chips.
Oh, did he? How good.
Well, he's on LIV Golf money, so stadium prices won't really affect his back pocket.
But he is massive for players' rights all around the world, any sport. So if I was running the AFLPA, I would get him to come and negotiate for me. He was as good as I've seen it. He's so passionate about it. He was just asking like pay-wise and stuff, and I was trying to explain salary cap, and he said like the reason he left PGA is pretty much they just want to control everything and limit your earnings and stuff. And LIV Golf is a share modelled share revenue. They all pump it up. They all post about it. They all support it. Where the AFL probably don't get that a lot from players because they don't want to do it, players. And he said it should be 50-50. He goes, you're not asking for any more. The revenue, whatever comes in, players should get 50%. and the game gets 50%? He goes, because you just get corporate bigwigs or the executives that just want to get paid more than they should. And he made a good point. Like, he said, and what are they going to do if everyone stops playing? They can't. Like, they have to agree to it, because he said he goes, it'd take a whole generation to get AFL going again. Like, it'd take 18 years probably, because you'd have to wait for all the kids to grow up.
We need some funding, though, for the grassroots footy, though. Which
No,
is
I know that. I know that.
Golf, so,
but he's saying that 50-50 is, I think it's up to 34%.
Is it
anyway,
34%, is it?
Something about that anyway.
Okay.
But that was outstanding.
interesting.
Tipped him in, had a couple of free sherbets there. I think they're Pirate Loss or something like that for Port Adelaide.
Yeah,
and
we saw.
Wandered down to the change rooms. It was pretty much in the circle, almost singing the song after the game.
I'm surprised they didn't get you in there.
Well, did you see when they first came off? They all came up and gave me a big cuddle and stuff.
Well, you're a legend. They were aware that you were in the rooms.
They almost had me in the circle singing the song.
So when you arrived at the rooms, does the doorman check, or are they just like,
just straight
you just
come through?
Velvet rope.
Yeah,
this
red
way.
carpet, velvet rope. And stopped everyone else and just let me through.
Did you pick a couple of fans out and go there with me, and they go, oh my God?
Snuck under.
No,
snuck under.
Good.
I wouldn't be mingling out there.
No. Even though you sit with the punters in GA normally, and you've never sat in a corporate box in your life,
right.
in the cheer
exactly
spot.
right. And then,
but when you get in the rooms, disregard the fans. I've got time.
Yeah,
for
that's
you.
right.
No,
and then,
fair enough.
Obviously, I was speaking to Ollie Wines, who we've got a really good relationship with, chewing the fat, and then Brian came over for a chat, and
you just pulled rank on him.
Yeah. So he wanted to chat, and then. Ventured off after that, after I'd seen the medical team and stuff that looked after me so well when I was there. Felt like I was always in the medical room, but then went home and got ready for the next day. So got home at about 11:30.
Okay, so
outstanding.
Take us through LIV Golf. All right, talk to someone who's maybe not au fait with the golf divide at the moment. What exactly is LIV Golf? What is the difference between a LIV tournament, which appears to be a bit of a party, and, say, a PGA tournament, which is a bit more proper, traditional, old-school golf?
Yeah, so I went there Saturday morning. We did our radio show, and then LIV is... Dead Set Legends, Adelaide.
I was just saying, all the people listening to Dead Set Legends South Australia are into Neds
that's right.
Unpopular Opinions on the Listener.
On the Listener app, that's right.
A very common playlist.
But effectively what it is, it's a breakaway for guys that they think may have been treated not unfairly, but they think that they're worth more than what they were getting on the PGA.
Sure.
They realised that they were losing fans. That's been an issue for golf for a number of years now. They're losing. Like, you go back and watch the footy, early days of Tiger and the party sort of atmosphere, etc. there. Now it doesn't exist at the PGA. They wanted an environment where it brought new fans in. It's only 3 rounds, not the 4 rounds. I think they may go to 4 rounds anyway. Yep. But there's also a team element to it as well.
Stuff the name
so,
up,
yes,
won't
I saw that.
They'll stuff the name right
probably
up.
won't.
It's a team. So it's team-based.
So it's team-based. And
who won it?
Cam Smith won it.
What's his team called?
Ripper?
The Rippers.
The Rippers.
Up the Rippers.
The Rippers GC or something.
The Rippers.
So I think each team captain owns their team.
Okay.
25%.
So it's like a
or
franchise.
And each player gets bonuses and revenue. That's what Bryson was saying about the way it's structured. So they're invested in growing it and making it as big as they can. So for Australian golf, it's massive because they could never get events where the world's best players would come.
It's huge for Australian golf, yeah.
PGA plays 48 weeks of the year. They play, I think, 12 or 14. So they've got life to live outside. They're obviously paid very handsomely. But the way Adelaide does it, so they do it at the Grange Golf Club. There's 36 holes. I don't think you could do it unless you have 36 holes because it's just a party. So it was probably the best event I've ever been to, and I was just in GA for all day. I'll watch maybe 4 or 5 shots of golf. And just the atmosphere was just pumping and electric.
I was just going to ask, as a punter, what's in it for you at a day out? So what would a day at the LIV Golf consist of if you're just going into GA?
So if you're going to GA, you literally, there's screens everywhere.
Yeah.
You can follow any golfer around that you wanted. So Cam Smith had a massive following, so the crowd was sort of following him. if you get there early enough, you can get on like the watering hole, so the party hole, which I think by the end of it's quite full. And it's a shotgun start, so it starts at 11:30 or something. Everyone tees off on a hole, so you're not waiting for one to tee off, then the next, which you normally get with PGA. So it's just action-packed, and it doesn't stop. There's music on the whole time, and the players love it, I think. Like if you go to the PGA, you've got to be quiet, you don't talk. Like they blow up if you take a picture, I think, or a click. You're just in any party area. There's about 3 different areas you can go to. You can follow. There's food trucks. There's everything you could think of is there. And then they have concerts every night. So I think Tones and I played the first night.
Yeah. What do you sing?
What does she sing?
Oh, Tones and I.
Tones and I.
That's her
popular artist, popular music artist.
That was a bit of a joke.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, just an old man's joke.
Oh,
Tone and I. So.
Tone and I.
Sorry. Anyway,
she played at the AFL Grand Final a couple years ago.
Yeah,
and then Fisher, who's I don't really know him, but a massive DJ. So
Lynchy's a big fan of Fisher's
I was leaving at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
I was leaving at 4 o'clock. The golf had finished. I had to go to the airport. There was just a swarm of crowd walking in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, going back in to watch and random. So I don't even know if you have to have a ticket then the area I was in was where the stage was. And I sat there with a couple of mates most of the day, guys that we did radio with. By 3 o'clock, it was full. It was like sardines. You could barely move. And it was just...
That's great. I mean, they've had a big month in Adelaide.
Yeah. Well, we had the Premier on as well. And So I think they were expecting over 100,000 through there, and 40% were from international or interstate.
Amazing. Seriously, that's incredible.
Restaurants, accommodation, everything. Everyone's a winner over in Adelaide for that.
I think the general consensus is go to a major sporting event in Adelaide. It is a top weekend out.
I think
Adelaide does it the best.
Unbelievable. And then ran into Craig McRae on the way home.
The great man.
And then up to the Gold Coast with me and Lynchy for Triple M.
But you got denied Harley Reid.
We got denied Harley Reid.
But missed out on that.
Ripping weekend, and if you got a bucket list item, I would say go to LIV Golf.
So we get the gather round probably struggle to get another location. You can probably it's one gather round maybe for special occasions when Tassie opens their stadium maybe. But LIV Golf, you could replicate that. It sounds like it's their biggest tournament of the year in Adelaide. If you could replicate it in Melbourne or Sydney or Brisbane or something.
They're circling. They're trying to take it off them.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
could you replicate it though? Do the same?
I don't think you could. Or you could, but I don't think you can take it off Adelaide. It should be there.
No, that's right. They have another one in Sydney.
You could.
Brisbane, Melbourne.
The different, you're literally 20 minutes from the city in Adelaide.
Yeah.
So it just works for that reason. Whereas Sydney, if you get stuck in traffic, it takes an hour and a half and everyone's spread out. But you could. There's no reason you couldn't.
It is impressive how events such as LIV Golf, Gather Round, even the Australian Open tennis, and of course the racing has just gone from being just a sporting event where you go watch your respective sport into this party weekend long or 2 week long atmosphere. The tennis is a great example of that. And Adelaide does it.
Day night test match.
Day night test.
They do things well.
They do it well. But yes, other cities do have similar things to get around. But yes, I would recommend it. Would recommend it.
I think it's the best event I've been to.
There you go.
That's huge.
Yeah.
LIV Golf. We'll get back to talking footy next on Neds AFL Unpopular Opinions, but it's not unpopular that LIV Golf is fun to go to. 5 stars. Well done, Catorina Rowntree.
You're listening to Neds AFL Unpopular Opinions.
Time to wrap up here on Ned's Golf Show, also known as AFL Unpopular Opinions. Dylan Leach, Alastair Lynch, and of course Tom Rockliff with you. Boys, I ask this each and every week before we wrap up. What are we looking forward to on the weekend ahead? Even though we're recording this on Monday.
I'm going Thursday. Standalone showdown.
Yep.
Clean air for it, which doesn't often happen. I think it's outstanding. Lynchy's in town. I said he should go.
I'm in town.
Yeah, I'm going to go.
Well?
Yeah, we're doing a upcoming Neds thing actually for later in the year about rivalries. We're doing one on the showdown. I genuinely think the showdown's best rivalry in Australian sport.
Just another
big event in Adelaide.
Just another big
Adelaide.
one.
Right, I'm going to go experience that.
Thanks to Tourism South Australia. This is the Neds AFL Unpopular Opinions.
Whatever the sellout is, 48 or 50, they'll have it there.
Yeah.
Even though the Crows aren't going as well as what they should.
But the rivalry is proper,
Yeah.
and the hatred is real. And you would know because we've also got the Q Clash coming up to finish off the round.
Looking forward to that
You've
one
played
too.
in both the Showdown and the Q Clash.
Should have won a couple of medals in both. I think Lynchy didn't vote for me up here. And
You haven't
Adelaide
forgiven him.
media didn't like me either.
You haven't really forgiven him there.
I think I've given the votes every time.
Which rivalry's bigger?
Just slightly, Adelaide.
Just slightly.
Just slightly.
Are you looking forward to the Q Clash, Lynchy, or is there anything else?
I am. It's probably more who loses, though, isn't it? Is
Yeah.
that the story with the Q Clash?
I think if the Suns lose, it's not as big a story as the Lions losing, surely.
But then it'll be back to the Suns have got to grow up at some stage.
Right.
They're getting there. But no, I'm looking forward to both games. Yeah, now I am going to the big game at Adelaide Oval. I'm looking forward to Collingwood Carlton.
Well, speaking of rivalries.
Yeah, one of the biggest rivalries. So my two games with Fox Footy this weekend.
Yeah.
Got the Q Clash.
Yep.
And the other game of the round, Sydney GWS at the SCG.
That is an speaking of derbies, that is a proper
It's a great round of footy.
Yeah,
rivalry.
might be some speed tickets given out at the SCG. I mean, the speed of that game could be anything.
That is going to be outstanding, the Swans and Giants rivalry. And the Giants have a bloody good record against the Swans, particularly at the SCG.
No, it would be a great game. Was it Toby Green snapped one out of a pack to snatch?
And there was the
2 years ago?
final. So that'll be outstanding to watch. And a Saturday afternoon blockbuster, what a slot as well, just with that beautiful... not only we see that red ball, but the Giants will be in that magnificent charcoal jumper. They wear that in the Sydney Derby.
Straight to the Dolphin for a refreshment on the way home.
Yes. Well, they got the Bogues 3X there as well for you.
Of course they have.
Got your favourite beer. Melbourne Geelong as well on Saturday as well should be
a great round of footy.
Fantastic game of football. And of course St Kilda versus North Melbourne on the twilight Saturday. Can't wait for that one.
Well,
obviously.
that features with a couple of our legs for the multi
good.
this weekend.
Yes.
So just to recap that for the punters out there, we're taking Brody Mychek, 2+ goals in that Friday night game. Same game multi, St Kilda versus North. Ryan's taken North Melbourne at the line.
What's the line?
36.5 start.
So obviously you're not happy with that because you've chucked Ryan under the bus. Ryan has tipped.
Yeah, he's not here to defend himself as well. Harry Sheasel, 30+. And Gold Coast Suns at the line. Ryan's taken as well.
What's the line for that?
13.5. So bundle that all up and you get $8.34.
$8.34.
So
Short and sweet.
We're back, I think. I think we'll get this one. We only got
Okay.
a couple of legs last week.
And that'll be good. So look forward to that. That is, of course, on the Neds app in the AFL section and in the group chat. All right, boys. Another fantastic show. Make sure you get on down to Adelaide. It's a great city. Let's see, we're sponsored by South Australian Tourism now, so we do more ambassadorships for Adelaide than 5AA or Triple M Adelaide will ever do here. Just don't drink the water. But apart from that, Adelaide's great. If you like the show, do like and subscribe. Thank you, Lynchy.
Thank you, Dill.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Dill.
Thank you, Richard, on the buttons. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, everyone. Just thanks in general.
Everyone.
Just thank you.
Thanks, Adelaide.
We just say thanks, and go Adelaide. SA great.
Thanks for listening to Ned's AFL Unpopular Opinions. Enjoyed the podcasts? Remember to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.